Hey, what's going on, y'all? We got another episode of Real Raw Exchange Podcast. My name is Frank, and can I get my co-hosts to introduce themselves?
Hey, this is Matt.
Okay.
Hi, this is Kyra.
All right. So, for this week, we wanted to go over the Oscar slap. The slap, well, technically, it's the second slap that's heard around the world because technically, and this is something that I looked up, little trivia. The first slap that was heard around the world was a slap that happened back in the 80s when it came down to professional wrestling, where a news anchor or a interviewer who was interviewing wrestlers ended up getting slapped by a wrestler because he said that pro wrestling was fake. So that was the first slap heard around the world. Now we got this second slap that was heard around the world when it came down to the Oscars, and obviously everything that's happened after that, because it's been going on for a week that we have seen, heard, gained many different perspectives on it. In addition to Will stepping out of the academy, when it comes down to actors, so on and so forth. Nevertheless, I'm gonna go ahead and give my baseline take on it, and then we'll just kind of go in. So initially, and I'm gonna be honest about it. Initially, when I saw the slap, because one of my brothers ended up getting in contact with me the morning after, letting me know what happened, and I was like, "What?" And then I started looking on social media, and I'm like, timelines, when it came down to Facebook and IG, seeing like, different pictures, and I'm like, what in the world? And then so I look up a video, and the first video that I saw was Will walking on the stage, you know what I'm saying? And then whap, and I'm like, whoa. My first thought, that shit was hilarious. And I'll tell you why. I thought it was hilarious because when Chris got slapped, it looked like he was still grinning the whole fucking time. But then, Chris, he got that permanent grin on his face that just ain't gonna go nowhere. If you really look at him, that's permanent grin, where that was funny to me. But then when I started thinking about it, why did he get slapped? I didn't get context on the reason why he got slapped. And then I started looking at, more details of, well, Chris ended up saying this joke, about Jada. And I was just like, oh, here we go. What's going on now, with the Smiths? You know what I'm saying? Because, there are various things that are, that's in media when it comes down to the Smiths. But nevertheless, what's going on now? So I ended up, getting to see another video when it came down to the joke. Now, here's the thing. I'm a big logophile. Okay? Love of words. You know what I'm saying? Words, that's my shit. So for me, the two, professions, if I could say, that I really enjoy how words are used, in context, two big ones, comedians and rappers. Comedians and rappers. You know what I'm saying? How they're able to use words, how they're able to, bring context together, so on and so forth. When it came down to the joke, a lot of people were like, oh, you know what I'm saying? He was hitting on, Jada when it came down to her alopecia. And I thought, nah, that wasn't it. Let's look at the double meaning of it. Because he was talking about G.I. Jane, where my whole thing is, a lot of people don't understand, that was also an underlying joke about the entanglement. Because if you think about it, when it came down to the character of G.I. Jane, who was that played by? Bruce Willis' ex, who left him for who? So I'm gonna be like, okay, messed up joke. I do somewhat agree with that the slap should have happened. Now, should it have happened on stage at an awards event like that? That's something I'm gonna bring up later on. But I do kind of agree with the slap should have happened, and that's more so from a black perspective of how I'm thinking about it. However, the joke itself, I'm gonna be real about it. Even though contextually the joke was genius, maybe the joke probably should have been said. What y'all think?
So for me, because I know that he was diagnosed autistic, it kind of hit different for me because I have an
Mm.
autistic child.
Mm.
So that was the first thing that came to mind. I know he's more capable, um, and holds a he's more functioning, more let's say that,
Right.
than children that may be on a more severe end of autism. But it still kind of hit differently because that was the first thing that popped in my head. Was
Mm.
like, I recently found this out a couple months ago that he was diagnosed autistic. So it hit different for
Wow.
me for that reason because I'm a mother of an autistic child.
Okay. All right.
Who is she talking about? Who is diagnosed autistic? Is
I'm
it Chris
guessing
Rock?
she's mentioning Chris
Megan?
Rock.
Who was okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
she's mentioning Chris
Yeah,
Rock.
Chris
Chris
Rock
Rock
has
diagnosed
he
with
was
autism.
he was diagnosed as autistic, and I do believe he was nonverbal for some time in his childhood.
Mm. Really? You know, we get to know things. We get to know information. You know what I'm saying? When it comes down to people backgrounds, so on and so forth. Now what you think?
I actually didn't know that he was diagnosed autistic, and I did not even think about it from the standpoint of, you know, GI Jane. I mean, I get the joke. I got my interpretation of the joke, right?
Right.
But I don't know if I saw it that clearly. Actually, I didn't even see it until told me about it. So I didn't hear about it till after the fact. So I didn't even watch the whole thing, especially in real time when or when it was aired. At least I think it's pre-recorded, so it's not live. I think,
Okay.
but um I think that it was some. I don't think. I think some people are, from what I saw, are. I saw like an article or something where Denzel Washington and who else? Tyler Perry pulled Will Smith aside
Mm-hmm.
to talk to him. I don't know what the talk entailed. I didn't even read the whole article, but I did see like the like the still shot on the article where they put him aside, and I feel like after the whole entanglement thing, I get that Chris Rock is a comedian. I get that when you have a comedic platform that, I shouldn't say anything goes, but I think that's how comedians think about it, honestly. Because if you listen to Monique and how she described what comedy is to her and what it means to other comedians versus how the public sees it or non-comedians see it, it's coming from two different perspectives, right? So
Right.
I think from his point of view, he's coming from a comedian standpoint. I get that he was diagnosed with autism. I'm not discrediting that at all because I didn't even know about that. But the joke part of it, I do think that was just his comedy side. But I also think that there's some underlying things going on, or there were some things going on previously before that joke happened. I don't think that it was just a joke. So I think that he's pushing buttons, right? And Will Smith reacted outwardly and publicly versus waiting and reacting right off screen. He decided to react right then and there, and we can talk about that later. But that's just what I think based on what I've seen so far. If that makes sense. Um,
Okay.
and I watched some of Chris. I don't follow a lot of Chris Rock because sometimes I don't really agree with everything that he talks about. And I'm just going to be candid about that.
Yeah.
I just don't agree. And I can say that from being an African American, from being someone that's not a comedian. It's just some things he talk about. I just be like, come on, Chris. Like, do you really have to go there? Do you really have to do that? But he does. And sometimes it's hard to kind of be like, are you talking? Is this like the comedian Chris Rock or is this like Chris Rock? Because I can't tell the difference. You know what I mean? So
I do. I think the
I
big
don't.
the biggest thing when it comes down to comedy, especially American comedy, okay? The biggest thing
Ain't
is
nothing off limits for them.
like and right where it's like and one of the biggest things that DL Hughley says, all the time, fuck you if you can't take a joke. You know what I'm saying? He says that all the time, and that's baseline level what majority, if not all, American comedians believe in and what they're groomed by. You know?
Right. And I think what confused the public also, think about it. When Chris Rock told that joke, Will Smith initially did laugh. Now, whether he was laughing, I think that the controversy is, was he laughing at the joke or was he laughing? Because I heard two different sides of it. I heard first he laughed because I did see it. I saw that he laughed, and then I saw when he went up and he did the whole slap thing. But there's some back and forth on social media about whether he thought it was funny at first, and then he looked at Jada and she gave him a look like that's not funny. Go take care of it. And then he went and took care of it, right?
Yeah.
So I heard that side. But then I thought, if he's anything like me, and I don't know if he is, I don't know Will Smith, right? I'm not a celebrity,
Right.
but depending on how he reacts to different things, he could have just been laughing, not necessarily thinking that it was funny at all initially, period. When things bother me, like for the first time, like let's just say I'm getting into an argument, I don't necessarily have like a facial expression that says I'm upset. Not the first time around, right? I could be smiling and be upset.
You be
with someone.
smile knowing you
I
that
can do that.
you'll be
Yeah.
smiling
Yeah.
or you'll start laughing at certain things that are being said to you. That
Yeah, I
you
yeah.
where it's like the reaction, kind of going into, the difference between reacting to something and responding to something. I think
You did both of those.
more or less what happened was a reaction to what we kind of baseline level know. You know what I'm saying? What he was feeling inside compared to him not wanting people to continue to take jabs at his wife, for her behavior. Now, and one of the things that I said in the beginning was the whole aspect of the double meaning of the joke. You know what I'm saying? The double meaning, where a lot of people, especially when it came down to social media, they were just, hitting on the whole alopecia shit, where I was just like, yeah, I ain't thinking no. You know what I'm saying? Like, from a intellectual standpoint, and let's be real about this, when it comes down to comedy, it takes smarts to get people to laugh. Here, what you got, Kyra?
So I also heard the day that this happened, and this was from the Ricky Smiley morning show.
Okay.
He stated that Chris Rock and Jada had previously had one date back, I want to say in like the early 90s, late 80s, and Jada had specifically said that that was the worst date of her life. And since she said that statement and that happened, him and her have been having a quote unquote conflicted relationship. And they've been going back and forth. So this is what I heard the morning that the slap around the world went down. So I don't know how true it is. I've never heard they had ever went on a date together. But this was coming from that morning show.
Okay, then I'll say that I'll say this when it comes down to that. If that's the case, let's just say, Chris and Jada got a pass when it came down to going on one date, which my whole thing is like one date ain't shit. Like, if that's the case, then I'm sorry, like, whatever happened when it came down to an exchange in reference to that, I'm gonna just be real about it. That's some sucker sugar honey iced tea to me, because stuff like that, like one date is one date, but then my whole thing is we also know contextually Chris Rock and Will are good friends, where my whole thing is you got that upset to play off like you liked the joke and then walk on stage and hit your friend like you did. Like that don't make sense. But then again, when you're in the mindset, and let's just say this is how the mindset that Will was in, when you're in a mindset of protecting your wife, quote unquote, then you're going to do what you need to do. However, I don't necessarily think it was more so you protecting your wife. I think it was more so you protecting your own ego. When it came down to you taking the action just to react versus responding differently. Now we have a highlight reel of a black man hitting another black man at an event that baseline level wasn't created by black people. And more so, what are the narratives that are what are more so being promoted out, more so on a larger percentage is, well, what Will did, he shouldn't have done. That was too violent. Where my whole thing is, and I'm gonna be real about it. I am not nonviolent. I agree with violence. What I don't agree with is blatant aggression. I am non-aggressive, but I do believe in violence. Now, what you got? What you got, Kyra?
So I've kind of been listening to everybody's like arguments on TikTok and Facebook, and I kind of agree with the side. Like, so a couple years ago, we had Machine Gun Kelly and Conor McGregor get into a full-blown fight at MTV, and nobody made a big deal about it because Conor McGregor threw a whole drink on Machine Gun Kelly and Megan, Megan, whoever the girl is. No, the other Megan. The one from what is that? Transformers.
Megan Fox. Megan Fox. Megan Fox. Yeah.
Yes. So he threw a drink. Conor McGregor threw a drink on Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, like literally assaulted him with liquids. Yeah. And they got into a full-blown fight. And Conor McGregor is a licensed fighter, and his hands are legally registered as weapons. He's a boxer. UFC fighter and boxer. And boxer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So he's a registered weapon. Yeah. He got into a whole fight that didn't blow up at all as much as this has. And then you have Kid Rock and Pamela Anderson's husband. I can't think of his name. Anyway, ex-husband. Tommy Lee, yeah. Got into a full fight at MTV back in the early 2000s. It still didn't make as much fire as this did. So I'm not understanding. You got two separate incidents in different decades that happened for palm-colored people, but when it came to us, it blew all the way up.
The reason why it blew all the way up is because they black.
Well, I know.
And the thing is, with this happening, when it comes down to, it being blown as way out of proportion as it is, because I'm also talking about that, because I agree with the slap happening, but I'm still skeptical and weary of whether or not it should have happened on a platform like that.
No, it should. I mean, we know morally it should not have happened on stage on live television. Should that have happened? Absolutely not. But I mean, he was defending his wife's honor, and
all right.
he should have handled it. He should have waited till they cut to commercial, or when they were backstage, or in another situation, and not done it publicly on live television.
And you know, my thing is, I'm gonna be real about it. Like, I'm kind of on both sides. I somewhat agree with it should have happened on that platform, and I somewhat agree with it should have happened. I agree with it should have happened is because in the scope of, and I'll put it in this perspective, the scope of you not being able to talk about certain things when it comes down to other people's business. You know what I'm saying? However, the definition of comedy as far as American comedy kind of shoots that out the window. In addition to the dynamic of what it means to protect. Is your wife presently in danger physically? You see what I'm saying? Like, literally, if Chris Rock got off stage and was literally about to rush Jada and punch her in the face, I get Will intercepting slap. I get that.
Right.
But you end up going on the stage based on a joke. You know what I'm saying? That's also one perspective to think about. But then it's also the dynamic of what was Will's breaking point? What was Will's breaking point? Because here's my thing. And this is where I'm about to bring up the whole entanglement piece. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Because I was straight about to say, I kind of feel like this got to deal with that.
Where my whole thing is, it's like, okay, for years, y'all have been putting, and I say y'all because it's been both Will and Jada, y'all have been putting y'all stuff when it comes down to y'all relationship in the media for years. Jada more so has been at the forefront of it. Okay? Where my whole thing is, with you putting it out, your business, y'all business. When you put it out there, you think people ain't going, try to use it as satire?
But it's more so, for me, looking back at how they were and what was said, it was always Jada that voiced the open marriage. It was never, Will uncomfortably sometimes agreed if she said it in his presence. If you go back to old interviews, and if he was present and she was talking about it, you could see the uncomfortability in his face.
How can
when he had to talk about it?
Actually coming out and specifically and clarifying that they had an open marriage. From the interview I saw, she would like beat around the bush. It was like a thing where you knew what it was, but it wasn't like she came out and said.
But still,
yes, we have an open marriage. You know
what I mean? Feel like still, on a Good Morning America interview that she did when she was in her band, she did openly, comfortably speak about it. I distinctly remember that interview.
Be it open or beat around a bush, it's still messy. It's still messy.
I believe. Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Where the messiness people are going to latch onto, especially if you have a comedian that know they could say certain things that's going to get somebody to laugh.
But the people latched onto that.
Will Smith was also a comedian in his own way.
In his own way, but he was not the same level of comedian that Chris Rock and them are.
He was an actor that more so focused on comedy. Starting out.
Right.
It was still comedic. It was still
But he's comedic. Not the same level as Chris Rock and him.
He don't the same level. I'm not comparing him to Chris Rock.
Right.
When I'm saying that's a total different level. I'm not so let me just say, I'm not saying that he's on the same level as Chris Rock. What I'm saying is that, do I agree that the slap should have happened at the Oscars? No, I don't. That's just my take. But I think that it could have happened verbally, just as Chris Rock said when he said, why couldn't Will Smith express himself verbally as Chris Rock did? It didn't have to go to the level of this.
I think, but this is just from
real quick, because I know that y'all about to just jump on this. I love the way Chris Rock had said that. I'm just going to say that because it could have turned. It could have turned.
It could have, and
I agree with that.
commend him for handling the way he did.
Would invite, us back.
But too, again, so for me, it's like I'm straddling a border. Like I see the zoomed in video that they show of Chris Rock after it happened. And again, that's the autism mom coming out at me. You can see where he's checked out. In that moment where his face is swollen, if y'all haven't seen the new video, you can see where he's checked out. You can see it in his eyes. He's checked out. He's trying to figure it out, and he just doesn't know what to do. And that could be that coming out in him or not. I don't know. It could be the shock of, oh my God, I just got slapped on national television. It could be any of those things.
Here's one piece also.
I do like that. And it's also an article online where they talk about how the slap brought back a lot of, Chris Rock faced child abuse when he was young.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
I forgot.
Yeah.
So they talked about that, about how when he in that moment, how that brought back a lot of what he dealt with as a child. So and I agree with that because you can see where he just dawned on him, because I don't know if it happened to y'all, but when you're in a fight and somebody physically hits you, it's different when you're talking to that person when they come at you and they put hands on you. You have to really process, this person just hit me.
It was a sucker. It was a sucker slap.
So,
It was a. I'm gonna put this out there. It was a sucker slap. You know what I'm saying, or a sucker punch, but it wasn't a punch. It was a slap, of course. So it was a sucker slap, right? The reason why it was a sucker slap is because you are coming to this man, showing him some type of deception, not giving him any context on why you're coming to him, and then all of a sudden going right out of character, going into a character of violence. It was a sucker slap. He
was not anticipating it at all. Like no one expected that to happen. Clear from the faces in the crowd, but it's just, for me personally, I just think Will has reached his level of I'm finished with all of this foolishness going on.
Fair.
I think he's tired. Absolutely.
He's
and
tired.
After that, y'all, my sister just kind of weighed in on this, and she's weighing in. I told her.
Bring it the camera. Bring it the camera. Bring sis in the cam. Bring sis on cam if she want to come on cam.
Get the camera.
Come on. Pull up a chick. Who is it?
Pretty good point. She said,
pull up a chick.
She said, would it have happened if Will Smith had done that if it wasn't Chris Rock, right? What if it was somebody white? Would he have gotten up and done the same thing?
And this,
I don't know, but
I'm gonna say something on that note. And this goes back to the whole aspect of, okay, yeah, let's just say if it wasn't Chris Rock, right? My thing is, both of them have reached a point where they are both elite enough to know I can slap and still get an award, or I can get slapped and no, I don't have to respond in a certain way, and people are going to come on my side anyway. Because my whole thing is, Will is younger than Chris. And you just slapped someone that's, I think, 3 to 4 years your senior, in addition to the fact that Chris is almost 60 years of age. He's 57. Chris is a 57-year-old man, and you slapped a 57-year-old man who has a family, who has kids.
I did not know he was that old.
You slapped almost a 60-year-old man at an awards event on stage,
where you were getting
an award.
My sister said that could also be from a belittling. You just belittled.
Not only that, and this is another side piece to also think about. This is another side. If she want to come on cam, she can come on cam. There's also another side thing to think about. Right. There's another side thing to think about. You also, with the slap, just diminished the other awards that were given to other black people at that award ceremony.
Yeah.
So, to that point, I'm not going to shift it too much, but If you remember what I sent out when I said, how I feel about talking about this topic, somebody said excellence interrupted, right? So the comment was all this black excellence that will supposedly upstage has been excellent long before the 2022 Oscars and will be excellent long after, yet we are still getting crumbs from the Academy table. Will doesn't set us back. The Academy never moved us forward. It was just optics. I thought that was a strong comment that they made.
I like that.
And I think it's something that we should discuss. You know what I mean? It's kind of seeing it from a different perspective.
Well, I don't think it's seeing it from a different perspective. I think it's seeing it from the perspective that we already knew always existed. We already knew that we already know when it comes down to this whole being a part of the elite or what is considered to be elite, or because a lot of people say, well, being up there, you know what I'm saying? Being up there, with the folks that, doing what they doing, right? We already know there are several different tables. You know what I'm saying? We already know this. I mean, a lot of it, can be based on the inception of, how this country was built. Nevertheless, the dynamic of understanding that Will and Chris in that event have certain privilege when it comes down to their elite status should be dissected, but then also in turn, let's just say you put two other black men in that same predicament. Let's just say, I don't know, maybe to give an example, let's just say you put Denzel Washington in Will's seat. How do you think they would have reacted if it was Denzel? But then, let's just say, I don't know, somebody like who we consider less famous. You know what I'm saying? Like less famous, or has less accolade. That is a black male actor.
Samuel Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson. You think Samuel L. Jackson got less accolade than Will?
Denzel? Or you talking about Will?
Well, I'm saying put somebody who has less accolade as a black male actor in Will's spot. Put somebody who you say?
Taye Diggs. Yes.
Okay.
Taye Diggs.
Taye Diggs, right?
I mean, he's a black male actor and he doesn't have much.
Let's just say Taye Diggs, or even I would even go as far as saying Morris Chestnut. Let's just say Taye Diggs or even Morris Chestnut were in the exact same disposition as Will. Let's just say, and they executed the slap.
Morris probably would have hit him back.
No, but I'm saying, or I would even go as far as saying this. Let's pick
Terrence Howard.
Terrence, okay. Let's just say we picked another comedian, less famous comedian. Let's just say who we pick? Michael Che.
Chris Tucker.
Chris Tucker. Let's just say it was Chris Tucker and Taye Diggs.
I feel like Chris Tucker learned his lessons from the mistakes he made before. He wouldn't make the same mistake though, because he has went bankrupt, so he financially knows he can't afford to fuck up. So I don't feel Chris Tucker would even put himself in this situation.
I don't think Chris Tucker would even been brought to the Oscars when it came down to being a host. You know what I'm saying? Let's be real about it. Keep it in a buck. But
that's why I said Terrence Howard.
You can do Terrence Howard. You can do Don Cheadle. He's not a comedian, but
well,
I feel like Don Cheadle's underrated, but he's a really great actor, though.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he is. I feel the same way about Lawrence Fishburne is a good actor.
But let's just say it was another comedian though, that understands comedy and said the same joke.
Cat Williams.
Well, Cat Williams, he would have, they never would.
It would have been a whole fight. I feel like it would have been a whole fight.
It would have been like a Chihuahua fighting a Adobe.
It just be all over the place.
No, or you can put Kevin Hart in there. I don't know if Kevin Hart would do something like that. Honestly,
I don't feel like Kevin Hart. He would have did the same thing Chris would have did. That Chris did. I think Kevin Hart would have been stuck and not have reacted.
I'm gonna be real about it. I think most comedians in that situation would have did the same thing. Now, here's another thing contextually.
Or black women. Let's just put that in there. What if Monique or Lunel or one of them did that? Of course, he wouldn't have got up to slap.
He would not have gotten up there to slap a black woman. He would not. He would have went to jail. Let's just be real about it. He would have went to jail.
Yeah.
The police was on standby, waiting for Chris to press charges. Chris didn't press charges.
Right. He declined to press charges.
I would have sued the shit out of rich ass Wilson.
Where my thing is.
I think, and that right there, I think says a lot.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, I think he did not press charges because he could have. And a lot of people are saying that he should have, but I think maybe he didn't because, I don't know, maybe that would have evened out the playing field. Because I feel like we don't know everything that led up to that slap. I don't think that he just went up there, he slapped him just off of that joke. I think that it was multiple little things that happened that led up to it. And it just so happened he exploded publicly.
I think foundationally, and I'm gonna be real about it. Because I'm just keeping it a buck. I totally and wholeheartedly believe that Jada is a very messy woman.
He went to that to Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy said all kinds of shit. Stop.
I feel like I stated before, I feel like he has reached his level of fullness, his bottle overfilled, and he's tired of his family being a meme, which this made it even more memeable. He will forever be known for slapping Chris Rock now on national television.
The most disrespectful meme that I saw, and I'm gonna keep it a buck, and this is gonna go to another point. Most disrespectful meme that I saw was they had a picture of Jada, and then on the picture the caption was, I'm not impressed. Tupac would have shot him.
And he's tired of that too, because when their relationship began, people speculated that he was second choice because Tupac passed. So he's forever been his whole relationship with her has forever been in the public eye.
A statement of second best.
Right. And people have continued throughout the years to say if Tupac was alive, she would have married him and not married Will.
And now this brings me up to another point. When it comes down to what Chris's brother, I think Tony Rock, if I remember correctly, Tony Rock at one of his shows just recently ended up saying, yeah, every time I get on stage now, I'm bringing up Pac. Yeah. Flat out.
Yeah.
I can see Dave Chappelle doing something like that, to be honest.
Like, I'm just saying, like, getting back to the whole family piece, you know what I'm saying? Like, you slapped someone's brother, you slapped someone's son, you slapped, like,
someone's dad. He's got sons, I think.
Someone's father, like, where it's just like, what the family got, I'm just saying, they won't react. They won't react.
And I think all of them are in show business in some way, shape, or form, especially the brothers to Chris Rock. And another comedian was like, what's stopping his brothers and his sons at this point for coming after your family and whatever they're doing? Because I don't know how many sons he has, but I know he has sons that are the same age as Jaden. So it's like he's opened a whole can of worms.
There is so much writing material that can be made off of the Smith family as a whole.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? You could talk about Jada. You could talk about Will. You could talk about their children. Even the children that Will had out of the marriage that he has now.
So the one son that he had outside of his marriage isn't as talk worthy as the two, Jaden and Willow. Because Jaden and Willow, live such a privileged life that the things they say set them up to be talkable, because they've made statements, I want to say, over the last couple of years of, well, I forget what was said, but they said something that was so disconnecting that it made other celebrities who actually had to work to get where they were say that you were afforded that luxury to be able to do whatever you want. You can dream beyond what a regular child can dream beyond to be. You can go out here and be whatever you want, do whatever you want, dress however you want. But for the regular, average, everyday person, they don't have that affordability to do what you're doing.
Right. Right. They don't. Where that whole aspect of privilege, being a part of, the elites and being that in that elite status, you know what I'm saying? They don't understand contextually. Y'all have a lot of privileges that most people don't have. A lot of people end up vicariously living through y'all, but then y'all don't realize these people that are living through y'all, they are just consuming your content. They're consumers of your content. Your content is not real. Your content is messy, or your content doesn't show a baseline of great character. It doesn't show it. What it shows is y'all just flip-flop all over the place when it comes down to various characteristics that you highlight as character traits. And they're not. They're not. Speaking of character, I'm about to go in on it. The Jada entanglement. I'm sorry, Jada, just the same as I would say for a black man who ends up messing with someone that is younger than them, but then also messing with someone contextually that's younger than you through it being a friend of your child. I'm sorry.
I just feel like
let me say this real quick. Just real quick. Jada, you're just another predator to me.
How old is August Alsina?
See, and that's the thing. Look, how
80, 30 or 29?
But I don't even think it's a matter of his age, yo. He's still grown.
Yeah,
Significantly, less in age than Jada Smith. But he's not, a minor.
He knew what he was getting into too, and he said it in one of his videos.
Let me just say this. He's not a minor. Agreed. He's old enough. Agreed. However, older people understand certain things that younger people don't. But then younger people more so understand what they know they want at a particular moment in time when they are presented with the opportunity.
But still, he.
Okay, I what you got to say on it? I'm just saying.
I feel like he was fully capable of understanding and processing what was going on, and he made the choice and decision. Now, whether he fully understood what was like the repercussions of what would happen. But he was an adult. He could process the part of his brain that processed consequences, the repercussions had formed and developed, and he was there. It was his choice.
That's the same thing, and I'm not going off subject. I'm gonna just throw this one in there. That's the same thing that you could possibly say about them girls in R. Kelly.
Ooh.
It is. That's the same thing that you just said is the same thing you could say about those girls. What? I'm not
double standard possibly.
Right, wrong. I'm not getting to the weeds. But that is the same thing that you could say that.
I get it.
And that would be a fact.
So with the girls in R. Kelly, most of the parents were involved, and I feel like that their situation was also influenced by their parents influencing them to want to either stay or go into the house. Now I feel like that's partially on the parents too, because a lot of them said their parents introduced them to him, or the parents talked them into staying.
Where now you go into the dynamic of parental consent. And we don't want to trail off topic too much, but I get it, Nat. I get it. Where my thing is, it's like, I'm going to just be real about it. Baseline level, I don't agree with I don't agree with the whole, and I'm gonna just be honest with it. I don't agree with the whole like age gaps stuff a lot because oftentimes, and I'm gonna be real about it. Oftentimes, you got a lot of older people who end up being with younger people because they end up becoming whack to ones that are their peers.
Well, yeah, and that's normally what that situation is that the older person cannot I don't want to say compete with or match with people in their own age group. So then they go outside of that age group because they can either control the situation financially, or emotionally, mentally. They have some type of power because they have the previous experience.
Or just the aspect of being so in the paradox of choice, and I'm gonna bring up the term, being so within choices, you just now realize, oh well, I'm going to now make a choice of, you know, dabbling elsewhere because, you know, it is what it is. You know, I want something new. When I mean, I'm just be real about it. When it comes down to sanctity of marriage, you know, really there is no sanctity anymore. You know, especially with how marriage is being promoted by the media. There isn't. You know, I mean, we go in the whole marriage piece, but I'm just saying when it came down to Jada, Jada has been messy for years. Jada has, you know, foundationally, I'm gonna just be real about it. Foundationally, she tries to reframe her messiness into the aspect of being real and open about topics everyone should talk about. Hence, Red Table Talk.
Well, yeah, the Red Table Talk opens up a whole new window for that family in stuff that people can divulge from.
See, and here's the thing. I'm not necessarily. I don't disagree with all the topics that are brought up on that platform. What I do disagree with on is different dynamics that inevitably diminishes the value of your family as a whole, and it being put on Front Street for the world to see. You know?
So I mean, I don't feel like per se, like specifically over here, maybe that marriage is looked at differently. I don't think globally. I think we have kind of watered down the meaning and what it is over here. So
agreed.
But globally, I feel it's not looked at in that way.
I agree with you. I agree with we got a special recipe for how we see marriage over here, and oftentimes we see marriage just the same as we see relationships.
Well, that's because I think that a lot of times, especially in the States, if you look at the marriages, and even if you want to look at successful marriages and whatever you constitute that as, because I think that shit varies, and I think it depends on how you look at what constitutes a successful marriage. But I will say, I think a lot of it, and people will probably disagree with how I feel about it, but some of it has to do with some sense of control. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that, or some sense of you thinking you can or you feeling as though you can control what another person do. You really can't. You know, you want. I think that's what a lot of the American standard of marriage is. You know, and they probably don't see that. They probably won't use the word control, but ultimately, I think it comes down to it. Just like that, you know, like that movie clip I shared some time ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the guy who had the affair with the woman, and the other woman, you know, didn't know that the wife knew about it, and she didn't approach her. She just she felt bad about it, right? Mm-hmm. The other woman felt bad about what happened and somewhat ashamed and embarrassed. But nobody saw the side in the movie where he introduced you to his wife. Hey, he introduced you to his kids.
Yeah.
Which means that, you know, in that moment, even no matter, you know, what, you know, you thought you had with this man, you probably did have something good and genuine. I'm not even discrediting that. He probably didn't feel the way he felt about you when y'all were together, but he brought you home to his wife, and his wife told you that the issue with some of the American society or the American way of thinking is that you can control a person. I can't control what he does. He's still my husband, you know.
I believe that is wholeheartedly true. I believe that that dynamic
Yeah.
has foundationally been projected within the scope of the inception of certain things that's happened in this country. I also, in talking about that, that goes back to what is considered to be the dominant submissive relationship, where marriage for us specifically was really never about that. It was more so foundationally about families and about complementarity. Being able to find your complement, someone that you can foundationally work with, you know, still be able to love, but foundationally work with as far as y'all being able to build a life together in the lives that y'all sharing with one another. Not no
I
trying to
think
control another human being on either opposite side, because control can happen in various other ways, right? It doesn't always have to be physical. It can also be mental.
Yeah, it can be. I think that if a lot of people adopted the whole polyamorous, I'm just saying one thing, but people out here are living polyamorously in any
This is a
way.
fact.
They're just not
This
saying it. It's
they're
not being
they're
known.
not
You
placing a
have people
label
in
on it.
relationships and marriages who are stepping outside of their marriages for whatever reason, but they are.
Yeah.
You do, right? Same thing with relationships. If you're not married, you get people in relationships who's just not satisfied with the one person.
Most
Maybe
of us,
they want something else, whatever that else is that
most
they
of
wanted.
us,
That
most
is
of
living a
us.
polyamorous life without saying it. It's a whole,
It
why
is.
not be honest and transparent and say, okay, transparency is key in any relationship you're in. And I'm just going, that's how I feel about
All right. We
it.
the aspect of poly, a lot of people don't even want to have that conversation because most people foundationally, especially with the aspect of being groomed in the concept of relationships based on the tenets of religion, most people are foundationally burned with relationships being only one way, or more so in the scope of monogamy only, you
No,
know.
I get it. You
But there's also, not only there's also selfishness
really
in,
do it. They have to be realistic. What's going.
not only there's also selfishness in poly, but there's a lot of selfishness in monogamy, you know,
Yeah, it is.
or a lot of
Continue to.
dynamics of control within monogamy,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't want to have a conversation about that, or have a conversation about the young girl that has been groomed and taught at a very young age, that she is looking for her husband, searching for her husband must be this, that, and the other when it comes down to this list of traits. And then once she gets older and she's looking for that husband, and then she finds someone that she may have a good baseline with, what I'm saying, that man does love her or whatever may have you, and he may have certain traits that she likes foundationally, but he has other traits that she can't stand. Then you got the whole dynamic of paradox of choice that may end up coming in again, in the scope of, well, I need to leave you because this one particular trait, completely overshadows the many traits that you actually have good. But then you also got the dynamic of, well, I'm going to see the large percentage, but then maybe that one trait over time will become more toxic because of the other person's paradox of choice that they have in mind, in wanting to choose certain things that inevitably is toxic for the relationship in itself. So the whole scope of, and I'm gonna bring this back to Will and Jada, and then the whole Chris Rock and Will debacle. There's so much that can be done in the scope of honesty, being honest, but most people can't take honesty. Most people can't be told, well, I like you, I love you, but I also like other people and I love the other people. A lot of people can't be told that. You know what I'm saying? Foundation, like blunt. Hey, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
I got you.
And if people could be honest and just say how they feel, people would be surprised how people would react and respond to their transparency and their honesty and their open. Because if you're that, if you're if you allow yourself to do that and express yourself in that way to your significant other, whoever, you're being vulnerable. Vulnerability is just, it opens up a whole new avenue for your relationship. Just, I mean, in general.
Now, let's just say someone is able to be vulnerable. Someone ends up using that level of vulnerability as a means to try to
Right.
have a conversation out in public platforms that may not necessarily be promoted in the way it should, in the scope of not being messy. Getting back to, Jada, where there's a certain level of provocative nature that comes with bringing up topics that most people see as taboo. So you bring up a topic, but most people are going to gravitate toward it because of how you bring it up, how you do it, which ends up going back to the why of, the reason why you're doing it. What is your why? The how often shows the why. But then people are going to ask why to get a further baseline of why certain things are happening in bringing certain things up. So there's this gray area of, well, I'm going to bring my husband on a platform and talk about me having a fling with the friend of my child, of our child.
Mm-hmm.
How are people going to take that? But then also, in turn, you left yourself open with putting that out there. Where, yeah, I still think Chris, being honest, I still think he deserved the slap. Now, do I believe it should have been on that platform? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Absolutely not.
I think it's
I do believe that Chris deserved the slap. Do I believe it should have been on the Oscars? No. Do I believe that he should have deserved the slap on some, hey, bruh, stop talking about stuff, stop talking about stuff when it comes out of my wife. You know what I'm saying? Just stop. I'm not going to take it. But then also, here's also another piece. In my personal opinion, I'm going to just keep it a buck. I believe Chris and Will are those elites that are suckers. And I'm going to just say this. The storm has shown the result. Will wasn't arrested. You know what I'm saying? Chris had a mindset to be able to be sane enough to actually talk about his take on what happened. Chris was also sane enough to understand, I don't want to press charges. They both are pawns in a perfect storm. Where a lot of times when it comes down to all of this, the creating of infamy or infamous, situations, a lot of times we end up looking at the main narrative that ends up talking about it. And the main narrative that most people are saying is, well, Will shouldn't have done that. But then also a lot of people still are like, well, he should have done it too. But then oftentimes people are saying yes and no within right and wrong context. Where one right context is saying that, Will should have done it was, well, you talking about, Chris was talking about his wife, out of pocket. Wrong context would be, well, Will, did it, and it was okay that he did it on that platform because, now we need to show everybody that black men are just not going to take, our wives being talked about. And, this shows an aspect of only protecting black women. When protection.
But then you got,
But then protection is about legitimately what it is, which is someone is presently in danger and you have to intercept the violence. That is protection. A joke, because a lot of people say, well, words hurt. That whole words hurt thing. Where my whole thing is, let's just say, because, we really don't know, not fully. Let's just say Jada did give Will the side eye, when it came down to, the joke. And he still laughed it off, but he was using his laughter as a means to, do the sucker slap. Okay? Let's just say.
I think in some ways Will is giving Jada too much power, right? I think that in some ways
goes back to the dominant submissive dynamic though.
Right. Yeah. I think in that moment she was the dominant one. He was the one who carried it out. But let's just be honest, that's not his what's the word? That's not his
MO.
His natural makeup is what my sister.
That's not his MO.
Like, that's not him, right? But there was something written on this article that said we built different, and we being black people is what they said.
Yeah.
We built different. Black people are more. I don't agree with everything in this, but it says black people are more sensitive, more emotional, and more reactive. And because of that, certain shit is off limits, period. In uppercase letters. It is a code. Black people know it, and America learned it. And it's a lot I think I could say on that, and I don't really agree with everything in it, but I do think that, Chris knew he was
Chris knew he was out of pocket.
Do what buttons to push, what buttons not to push. I just don't.
Here's my thing. We can say that, but then also in turn, we still also believe that black people in the United States of America, as far as being a community, we're not a community, we're not a monolith. Because if we were a monolith, we would be a community. Where it's a lot of things that we agree with, but it's a lot of things that we don't agree with. We bounce back and forth between the choices of whether or not we're going to come together or whether or not we're going to be on our side when it comes down to the particular choice that we have kept in mind. So to say that, you also have to understand there are black people that are going to read that and not agree with you.
Right.
And
I don't agree with everything. Yeah.
What is the larger percentage? What is the larger percentage of black people not agreeing with black people, or of us not having a foundational rule set that we play under in reference to being around others? It's like we're so much in choice that we don't realize oftentimes choice destroys us.
I think choice can either destroy us or choice can protect us. You know what I mean?
Fair.
I think it depends on the choice you make. Yeah.
It depends on the choice you make. It definitely depends on the choice you make. But however, when it comes down to that choice, how many choices do we have at our disposal that push us to make the wrong one? Or how often are we able to make a choice and the choice may be lackluster, but we're still able to bounce back from that choice that was made and still come together? And that's difficult. That is difficult, especially with us having so many choices that we can delve into, because we will allot ourselves options. We will do it, regardless of how others will feel outside of us, and even regardless of how we feel on the inside.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no. I get it. It may be just my Libra side of me, but I have to weigh out both of the sides. I feel for both of them, honestly. I feel like Will is just tired of the shit. And I feel like that he just doesn't know. I think that slap was just like him, like, I'm tired of it. I want it to go away. I want it to stop.
You know what?
And he just looked like he's, oh, I was just talking to my sister, and we were talking about when Jada was at the red table, when they were at the red table discussing,
Yeah.
the thing that happened. And when she said that, the climax of that conversation for me was when she said, she said, it felt, what did she say? I just wanted to feel good. And she said, it's been so long since I felt good. Whatever, I was like, the way she said it, it was like she had relived whatever moment that caused her to feel that way. A lot of, and this goes back to, why people should reestablish their relationship personally, or reestablish what they think a relationship is versus what they have seen it to be or what they think it to be.
Yeah.
It's not, but when she said that, a lot of women, or a lot of men may feel the way, but I know for a fact a lot of women feel the way she when she said in that little, those, in that amount of words, was that a lot of women may feel like in current relationships, whether it be marriage or just, boyfriend and girlfriend, or maybe girlfriend and girlfriend, whatever your preference is, but it's probably how they feel. But I don't think that she thought about how it would be received by Will publicly.
No, she couldn't have thought about it because she went on a public platform.
Right.
Did it.
Right. And what I think is that, a lot of the attention is being put on Jada, but I think we don't know what Will has done, right? But I think that he hasn't been as messy as Jada.
But
right?
would we say that if the shoe was on the other foot, though, and it was being more accepted? Would we say that if the shoe was on the other foot? Would we say if Will did what would we be saying if Will did what Jada did?
Oh, they dragged him through the mud.
Of course, because
they would make him out to be like a, like a whore and, all that kind of stuff. But
right,
they would drag him through the mud
because now it's being more accepted in society. For if a woman genuinely feels, maybe they don't necessarily have evidence of it, but if she feels she's not getting what she needs to gain, or she is not happy with what result has happened within a marriage, often now it's, well, I know I could step out and the man will be blamed for me not being happy. When there's a collective responsibility for both parties to come into a union with happiness individually, so you can create happiness collectively. But now it becomes, well, I just want to feel good. Okay, how many women out there are you letting this message seep into their brain for them to now be like, well, you're not doing enough for me, whoever, my significant other is. You're not doing enough for me, now I'm just go out and do what I want to do. Which kind of goes against what the initial agreements were when it came down to the marriage in the first place. Or when it came down to whatever the union was talked about in the very beginning. Now, here's my thing. I agree with redefining what now y'all want, and the definition is fair across the board, where ain't nobody getting hurt blatantly. You know what I'm saying? Be emotional or physical. I agree with that. However, the whole aspect of you putting something on a platform and then you talking about, well, I just wanted to feel good, in my personal opinion, now shows to me as a selfish act.
We should have worn t-shirts that said, I just want to feel good.
Hey, it would sell. But I would have the same thought if Will did the same stuff. I would have the same thought. There's no thought in my mind because there's certain things that I think about when it comes down to character. Character. Where I'm like, nah, I wouldn't do that. I'm not gonna do
I
that.
felt like in that moment she was being very selfish and being very inconsiderate of her husband's feelings. Because when you hurt someone's feelings, that's just dangerous. It's that's dangerous territory. You hurt somebody emotionally. I think it's just not it's not right.
But
Because you don't know how they respond to it.
maybe also, and I'll play devil's advocate on myself. Maybe also there are things that Will has done that we don't know about. But the thing is,
Absolutely.
Will is just one of the no, Jada is just one of the ones where she doesn't care about what people think about what she does. But then my thing is, if you don't, was the slap really Will, or was the slap more so you triggering Will?
No, I think it was yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I personally think it was a
We were
trigger.
talking about that.
It was a trigger where it's just like Will's fed up. Where my whole thing is, I don't think, and I'm gonna be real about it. And I'm not an advocate for domestic violence, and this is not me putting things into the universe when I do say this. The slap really wasn't for Chris. I believe, in my personal opinion, the slap really was for Jada.
Somebody said this. The comment on this article said that the slap wasn't. What did they say? The slap was for
For everybody else,
the bitch slap was for America to leave his wife alone.
it could be that too. It could be that too. I agree with that also. I
I
do.
just think that Will is probably venting too much inside, and it's if you keep. I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you keep. I mean, not venting, but keep. I don't know. I just feel like I hope he's going to therapy or something. I really think it's tearing him to pieces.
I
That's
think
what
he
I
needs
think.
to go to therapy because I think right now
Yeah.
he's not able to deal with his emotions. Like, I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm an advocate for mental health, all that stuff. I'm a complete advocate for it.
His emotions have gone astray because if they were in check or if they were in control, he wouldn't have slapped Chris Rock. I was about to say Chris Brown, Chris Rock.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're able to, if he was able to, if they were in control, but they were not. That was clear that they were out of control.
Right.
You know.
So, I mean, I mean, we could delve into a lot more stuff when it comes out of this, but I think we kind of gave a good baseline of this topic as a whole. I mean, I don't really have too much more to say on this. Do you got anything you want to say anymore?
I don't have anything to say. No, I mean, because we can go on and on about this topic, and especially if you're talking about, protecting Black women, that's just, because it's a
I
thing where there have been instances where white men or have protected their women, Tom Cruise, Russell Crowe, all of them. So we can talk about that too, but we could do another. I'm sorry, hold on. We could do another episode on that, but
right.
no, I think for now, I think that we cover a lot of land on the topic.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where it could just go on and on and on and on. So
Do I will say this. Do I agree with this slap being a medium or a catalyst? Let me say catalyst. A catalyst for American populace getting used to Black men expressing themselves in an aggressive way that's not being demonized? Yes. That's why I still agree with the slap, on the platform, but still somewhat agree with it off the platform too. You know, where for most people in America, and this will be my last point, most people in America, when it comes down to Black men are the epitome of violent acts. Like, we are the ones that, do all the underhanded, downright evil crap, you know, and there's no talk about the history of violence that black people have been under, you know, our ancestors have been under when it came down to certain violent acts that pushed us to act a certain way. In addition to the violent acts that still go on that are outside of us that happen that is given a pass. Where the violent act of Chris getting slapped can be a catalyst for aggression being put out in spurts, being accepted and not being demonized. Now, my thing is, you still have a lot more people saying, well, Will shouldn't have done it in the first place. And most of those people, just being real about it, are white. Being real about it. Most. Where I care less. I don't give a fuck about what they say. Honestly. What I do care about is both Will and Chris taking the initiative to get the mental health means that they need to be able to bounce back from this. That's what I more so care about. I care about these black men, you know, not necessarily being completely affected or traumatized by the situation. But still, I do agree with the slap happening. Oftentimes, when it comes down to certain things that could be traumatizing, that trauma could teach us lessons that we would not have gained if the trauma didn't occur. But at times, trauma is to bend, not to break. To bend, not to break.
I'm just curious of how the Oscars is going to move forward with next year. You know?
Okay.
I'm just I'm just curious. And it's funny because I stopped watching them a long time ago. But after this, I'm like, I'm watching them next year. I want to see what's going to happen. I just want to see what's going to happen. And I think this time around we have is there a black executive director or there's a who is it? I think that they have a I could be saying that wrong, so I don't want to quote it, but I think there's a black person in charge. I think of the Oscars, and I'd like to get his take on it. Actually, and I don't know if he came out and said any. But, I don't know what his title is, but I kind of caught him in like the like pre-event where he was talking to one of the news casters or whatever. I don't remember his name, but
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna just say this. I platforms like this is always going to demonize things that we end up doing, but we have a certain context on why we did certain things, especially when it comes down to violence. You know.
yeah.
So for me, I'm just in my mind, I wish Will and Chris the best. You know what I'm saying?
I do too, and I just feel I don't know. Well, I feel like both of them have just come from a wrong way, and I feel like Will just I don't know. I because first of all, Will is the breadwinner. Let's just say that, Jada. I don't know what you were thinking when he got up there but ain't nobody talking about that. I'm like, he just resigned from the Academy. Netflix and Sony have put pause on his upcoming project. Jada's not worth as much as Will. Let's just put that on out there. But he's at a place in his career where he's probably okay, right? But still, like you never
You
like
know,
you just
you
never
know,
know.
something I thought about. Here's a good question. What is the difference between accepting a person for who they are and realizing most people grow with time?
What's the difference?
What is the difference between accepting for a person for who they are? Baseline, you see what they
Right.
willing to give, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? When they are able to disclose everything, because eventually everybody end up disclosing, all their, good traits, bad traits, all that, right? And you know, understanding people grow over time. You know, be
They
it
do grow over time.
be it good or bad. What is the difference between the two? You know, is there a difference?
I think there is a difference, but I think it takes some recognition. Like if you recognize that the person can grow, because everybody don't grow. Some people just stay the same. Some people stay the same, and you want them to kind of go into a different direction, and they don't. But that's what you want. That's not who the person is, right?
Do you, do you think that people um, can only grow when they are traumatized by certain things or go through trauma?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
Do you think in this era, most people have this tendency to self-identify with the trauma that they have gone through?
I do, yeah.
Then I believe it's difficult for people to actively grow in the sense of good nature when they are needing the catalyst of going through pain to actually grow. You know, the need for going through a painful experience, because that's self-identifying, with a traumatic experience, and then we end up holding things like that as a badge of honor. Where my question is, what badges of honor have Jada gone through that projects her personality now? What badges of honor that, no, I'm just being real about it. What badges of honor have Will gone through? What badges of honor have Chris gone through?
Yeah.
I
mean, Jada, I don't know. I mean, Jada, if you ever watch her table talk, her mom is usually on. And if you see her mother talks about, I think she was raised in Baltimore, or she's from Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore, yeah.
And her mother, I believe, don't quote me, but I think her mom was, she struggled with
drug addiction.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know what her preference was. So I know that was there, right? And I know that had to have some type of effect on Jada.
On how she raised Jada.
Yeah. And then I don't really know a lot about Jada's growing up history. I don't know. I know a little bit about Will's, and I know it was rough. But just like how Kyra said, where Chris was, he was born with autism, high functioning, but he was still diagnosed with autism, so he is autistic. And then I know that he has some child abuse and some other things. So if you work your entire life to kind of, because you're never going to get over something like that, but you have to really, you live your life in a way, or if you're living your life in a way where it can get better with time, right? Because it's never going to just get better. But learning how to deal with it, learning how to, overcome it, and then a moment like this happens, and it takes you right back to that moment. It just, I can't imagine how that. So that's where I'm like, I have to weigh out both sides. I'm just like, I said, you set him back so many years in that one slap that I can't even.
Here's
and like you said, when you said that you slapped somebody's brother, somebody's child, somebody's father, his kids have to see their father, the black man, the protector of their household, get slapped by another black man. Unless you said the slap. Most times men don't slap each other. I even see that as like a form of like, you just totally like emasculated Chris.
It's lower than punching. It's lower than just being punched.
I said he didn't even punch me. He didn't even approach it as a man of really any race normally would. He slapped him. That's something that women normally do, right? Like, come on. How you gotta do it like that? I just felt so I take it from different, so
Yeah,
that's how I kind of saw it too. I said, slap him, didn't punch him. I'm glad he didn't punch him, because he could have hurt him.
I,
And he
I
probably did hit him with the slap. I know. Thank you, Gigi.
it was like he and you did something that you would do to your child when your child is out of pocket. You know what I'm saying?
It was disciplinary, yeah.
Like you
From
you
from
you took a disciplinary act on an almost 60-year-old man. That's I'm sorry. I'm just say this. If it was me, Will and I would be fighting at the Oscars, and we both would get arrested.
That's how it could have happened, though.
And that's how it could have happened. You're
And
absolutely
that's
right.
why I'm kind of happy that Chris did not react that way, because he could have reacted
And
that
he
way.
could
It
have,
could have went totally different. They could have been, fist to fist at the Oscars, and that would have just been. I mean,
and then
that would have
my thing
been.
is, with it happening that way, how would everyone then see Jada? You see what I'm saying? Because technically, if you are protecting, Jada wasn't in immediate danger. Jada's
No,
feelings got hurt.
then that. I just said that when you hurt somebody's feelings, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And she knew she couldn't physically do anything about it, right? So why not give him the signal or whatever she did?
Why not
But in that moment,
spark?
I think Will should have been husband enough, man enough to probably not go that route at the Oscars,
Why
not
not?
during the event.
But why not spark?
Maybe after the event, Will. Maybe after the cameras are shut off, but
I would even,
not on stage.
I'm gonna take it a little bit further. Why not spark the resentment that your husband, you already know your husband has within him for everything that has happened or transpired when it comes down to what has been said as far as the media. Why not? Why not go ahead and just put a fire on the fuse? Because you're puppeteer. And this is messed up for me to say, but if a man doesn't know how to control his emotions, you know, and I'm gonna just be real about it, a messy woman can use him as a puppet for
That's
her
what I
own
think she's
doing.
doing. I think she knows where her power lies. You know, I think she knows where her power lies. She knows what she can and cannot do, and she has those strings, and she's doing what she needs to do to get what she wants.
Yeah.
Not really, not really taking into account of how it's going to affect them and their family, and you know, and and her. Honestly, in the long run, it's just like, come on.
Well,
I didn't realize how a mess their relationship was until this whole. Until I'm like, it's a mess. They need to go back to the basics
I
or something.
well, there's no basics anymore. Like if you really think about it, like if we are talking about if we're talking about and we put it in this way, if we're foundationally talking about American marriages, you know, or we could just put it in this perspective, Black American marriages, because if we talk about either one, we also have to talk about the historical context of both, you know. But that's a whole different topic. I could delve into what
Yeah,
may have you. I think we already beat this dead horse. Uh,
yeah, we did. Yeah,
you
we
know,
did.
when it comes down to this,
I think it was
this
a good discussion. Yeah.
I think so too. Um, Nevertheless, I'm Frank. RRX Exchange Podcast. Everybody take it easy. Have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.